First things first, what is that long-awaited and much argued over business package going to look like?
Even before that, well done to you and the GB News team for the funeral coverage. I've been watching it avidly over the last week, and it was absolutely fantastic. And you are now officially, Alistair Stewart, my mum's favourite.
Bless her.
Aside from all that, the business... Now, here on GB News, rightly, we often focus on household energy fuel bills. Our listeners and viewers are obviously really concerned, and the government has announced there will be a big energy support package for households. Liz Truss announced it in the Commons. Then there was ghastly news about Her Majesty came through. It was truncated. The details of that will be laid out on Friday. But in my GB News coverage and broadcasts, I've stressed for many months what this energy crisis means for businesses. Yeah. There is no energy price cap for businesses. And this is the problem, Alistair. There are many energy-intensive businesses across the Midlands, across the North. Those red wall seats the Tories need to win again. Their energy bills are going up 4, 5, 8-fold. And if you don't believe me, I know you do, but just listen to this interview. I did an interview just before the death of the Queen, unfortunately, with a friend of GB News, the CEO of JCB, no less, a brilliant British company, an iconic British company. He's Graham MacDonald, and this is what he told me about his energy bills.
So we have a contract that's expired where we're paying roughly £112 per megawatt hour for electricity. The spot market today is £750 per megawatt hour. Right. So it's 700% increase. Now, if I buy forward today for this winter coming, or winter 22, it's around about that price, £700. If you buy forward for summer next year, it's down at £450. If you buy winter 23, it's down again at 3. So the forward contracts are actually showing some pressures coming off energy costs. And, you know, who knows what other major geopolitical issues may happen in the world that might drive other events.
Now, JCB obviously it's a big player. Yeah. They've got 11 factories in the UK, 11 more factories across the world. But even JCB, with all their negotiating skill and acumen, they're paying £112 per megawatt hour now. That's the unit of electricity they're using. They use a lot of electricity, and that's going to £700. And if you're a small business, if you're running a pub, a restaurant, if you're running a small manufacturing firm, we are seeing fuel bills going up 4, 5, 8-fold. There is a cliff edge coming when these contracts expire this autumn, and businesses are desperate to know whether or not they're going to still be viable as a result of this energy support package.
And we'll find out more details of that tomorrow. But this week is a massive week for economic news, isn't it? Politics is back. Just tell us about the other economic news that we're going to get.
Well, I've had a few days off as watching your fabulous coverage, Alistair, and the rest of the team, but it is going to be a really busy week for economics. So tomorrow we've got that business energy support package. That'll be at 9 o'clock in the morning. It won't be in Parliament because, as Tom Harwood's is saying, a lot of new MPs are getting sworn in. Then on Wednesday, we've got the Federal Reserve, the US Central Bank. They're going to hike interest rates by a lot. And then on Thursday, we've got an interest rate decision by the Bank of England. We're expecting interest rates to go up to 2.5%, up by 0.75 of a percentage point, what economists call 75 basis points. That's the biggest interest rate rise since 2008. And then that will impact businesses, that will impact firms. And then on Friday, as if you hadn't had enough of business and economics, there's going to be that mini budget. The government's only calling it a mini budget, so the Office for Budget Responsibility doesn't have to lay out assumptions and forecasts, which may be actually quite inconvenient for the government. That would be controversial. But just go back to Graham MacDonald for a moment, because it is significant when a serious business leader like him speaks out. He is generally quite optimistic, not least for JCB. They operate all around the world. You know, when companies involved in infrastructure projects across the emerging markets and so on. But he did say, in his view, the real blot on the horizon isn't inflation now, which he thinks is coming off. He thinks it's these interest rate rises, which in his view could be excessive. Here he is.
Look, in the next 12 months, I think one of the big threats right now. I've given my view on inflation, but it depends what governments do with interest rates. I think that could slow down investment rapidly if they push to, and I understand why they're doing it, but I think it's maybe an overreaction. So I think if interest rates go too high, then that could be a dampener on the economy and the world economy, not just the UK.
Tom also said that at the Downing Street briefing in the last hour, the Truss mantra of unashamedly pro-growth was repeated again and again and again. They want to listen to people like JCB, don't they?
Of course, on Friday, Alistair, we'll be focused on what these announcements mean for our GB News viewers and listeners, whether they're householders, they're running businesses, working in companies that have got high energy bills, they'll be concerned. But there's also going to be a step change in policy making on Friday. Trussonomics.
Yeah.
Borrowing is going up. And Truss and her Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng, they're cutting taxes into the face of higher borrowing. A lot of people say that is a big risk, so that's going to be very controversial on Friday. And just to say, if viewers and listeners do want to hear the full 20-minute version of my conversation with Graham McDonald, the CEO of JCB, they can do so via the GB News app, the Money Talks podcast, and on the GB News YouTube channel.